That's a real shot. That's actually from the big combo. It's one of the last scenes. That is the opening shot of Asphalt Jungle. The beautiful ugliness. Film noir is a style of movie creating, which is applied usually to suspenseful, mystery, violent crime, action movies. We're going to break down noir this way. Not all of these are essential elements, but you need a good reason to discard any of them. First, it must be made between 1940 and 1960 to be considered a film noir. Second, it must be in black and white. Black and white as a medium, a preferred medium, to do things that you can't do in color. The characters. We'll get back to the characters soon. The setting, it must take place in the city. The subtext, there's often political or social criticism involved. The writers at the time and a lot of the people involved in the movies, due to heavy censorship laws and by the government and by the Senate, by the communist Red Hunt and the Ayn Rand and the code in Hollywood made it very difficult to do any kind of social commentary. So they had to sneak it in very artistically. But it must contain something like that, or else it won't be an interesting and lasting film noir. The business side. These were all low budget B movies, they're called, or most of them were. B movie was the opening movie for a double feature. You had a newsreel or two, and then you had cartoons, and then you had an opening movie, and then the main feature. When the opening movies were churned out by the hundreds, very inexpensively and very quickly. And this kind of pressure made some very interesting creative choices happen. Sometimes less is more, and sometimes when you're given very big constraints, you can come up with some amazing art. For example, a lot of the dark scenes were brought about because they didn't have enough money to complete the sets.
Look.
And some of the most suspenseful scenes, like in The Crooked Way, one of my favorites, came about because they didn't have enough money really to do much soundtrack work and enough time to record it. So they had to do these suspenseful scenes of people sneaking around trying to kill each other in total silence. And it's more effective than having the music in the background and add an incredible amount of suspense. The characters and the tone of the movie. These movies are fatalistic and dark. The endings are not all good or all bad. They're confusing. And so are the characters. They're not all good or bad either. They're alienated, all from each other. They're all alone. They don't know who to trust. They're paranoid, and there's a lot of inner turmoil, psychological turmoil, that you can see only by their acting. Read it on their faces. Put yourself in their position. Or sometimes they resorted to voiceover narration. But it gets you inside the mind of the person in trouble, and often a criminal, or someone kind of forced into crime. We've all been in trouble before, and this is what it's like to feel like in trouble, and feel fated to be in trouble, and not be able to get out. Film noir is a genre, has certain aesthetic requirements and plot requirements. And I think the most important one is the social political aspects. But we all know the reason we tuned into film noir and to watch this. It was because of one thing. It was the femme fatale. We want to see the femme fatale. So instead of spending a lot of time on other stuff, let's just get that out of the way right now. The femme fatale, the most famous character archetype in movie style of film noir, is a product of the war. In the 1940s, where the men were off and it was the women were on the home front supporting the war effort and having to take on men's jobs, and were becoming more independent and more resourceful. And the men, when they came back, having been in a foxhole for years, had kind of lost touch with reality. And in many ways, the women had surpassed them and become more savvy. So they were up against their match when they came back to see the femme fatale. The old woman of virtue, the trusty girl next door, was gone. And she wasn't as interesting when she did appear. There's Marie Windsor. She's a classic. Look at this. Look at this. And Jane Mansfield makes an appearance here with Edward G. Robinson. She has some very important testimony in this scene. This is the end of Illegal. Watch how Gilda here plays off of both the men to make them jealous of each other. Rita Hayworth. Look at the hand. One hand on his and one hand on the cigarette. Looking back and forth. She's making the men nuts here. And then of course she does this. This is a great femme fatale movie. Rita. And back in these days, to be a star, you had to be able to sing and dance and act. And look at this. Look at Burt Lancaster here. He's with the woman of valor, the old virtuous woman. Not old, but the traditional virtuous woman. And he's got his eye on a femme fatale. What a cad. What a heel. Look at this. He came with this virtuous woman. And look at the three of them here. This is a shot invented in Noir where you had three people layered like this. So you could save money on camera angles, but look at the depth and look at the social dynamic going on here. That poor girl. Look at that guy. He's trying to just distract her from this very awkward and depressing moment for Lancaster. What a heel. So the femme fatale. In this movie, this is the great Flammarion. She's with an obviously older man, and the whole movie she's just conning him in, sweet talking him to do things. More and more she gets out of him. You see so many scenes like this. You don't even have to hear the dialogue. Look at her just begging, and he has to give in. He can't resist. But he's not stupid. Eventually he's going to figure her out, and there's going to be a conflict. Look, she's about to ask for something here, you know it. But there is one thing, Flammarion. And then at the end of the movie, there's always some desperate plea like this.
You ought to have killed me for what I did a moment ago.
There's time.
No, you won't.
Even though she's totally screwed the guy over, she's saying, you know, now that we've gotten that out of her way, maybe we could just have one more chance.
I've never been to New York.
You take a trip there sometime. You'll see one reason why I'm in San Francisco. Which said you'd tell me the other.
You know, you're rather charming yourself, but I'm afraid I don't quite understand you.
Well, if you'll drop this junior league patter, we may get the conversation down where it belongs.
You worried about something?
I don't know. Should I be?
Not if you do what you're told.
The social political aspect of film noir is a reflection of the times. It is a unique genre for political and social criticism, which is unmatched by any other modern American genre of art or style, or music, or film, or literature. The reason is obvious. Artistic and thinking people in Hollywood who are critical of American life, ideology, and policy were expressing their ideas on a highly influential medium that was highly regulated and censored. The fact that it was highly regulated and censored only proved their argument that the USA was not what it claimed to be. It was not the land of free speech. It was the land of control. Because of this, they had to cleverly and artistically disguise their ideas, which forced them to reach heights of creativity and intensified the rebellious streak, which was the undercurrent in every film, which is so subtle it can't really be described. The list of taboo subjects was comprehensive. Law and order, sex, politics, the war, patriotism, gender roles, upward mobility, democracy, the American dream in its entirety were all completely under regulation, and the establishment's narrow idea of what was acceptable reflected a utopia which did not exist in real life.
Have you no sense of decency, sir?
People who deviated risked losing their jobs, going to jail, being forced to inform on others. This was largely due to the stranglehold the FBI's Hoover and the Red Scare on Hollywood. But there were other factors. Many artists, directors, cinematographers, etc., were recent immigrants from Germany, forced out due to the war. One of the most important directors in the field, Fritz Lang, had much more freedom of speech, ironically, in Germany than in the USA. This must have been a motivating factor for him. Originally, in the history of the United States, the American dream, as defined by its own mythology, could be summarized this way: a desire to live an independent life, free of religious or political oppression, where pursuit of happiness meant self-actualization in a spiritual way. Sometimes it was in the form of work, and sometimes not. The freedom it offered left people to define success in their own way. Mostly people wanted to be left alone, or banded into groups of like-minded people who preferred to be left alone, and also to reap the benefits of a massive country with limitless resources and potential. Self-satisfaction was having what was reasonable, a stable existence with a healthy family and some meaning in their lives. Money comes into play only because poverty is its own kind of social political oppression. Although the political guarantees were developing or developed for most people, technology had been unable to give people much in the way of creature comforts in the 19th century. A meager existence was brought about by backbreaking labor which exhausted the spirit. Creature comforts and living a quality lifestyle with household adornments would merely be a way of reflecting the stability back to a person in the form of some aesthetic beauty in life which, in addition to the beauty itself, was a reminder that a person had some wiggle room to have something other than mundane utilitarian possessions.